Now, a new type of petrol is being rolled out across forecourts in Britain today. It's called E10. The government says it will be more environmentally friendly, but it won't be compatible with more than 500,000 older vehicles. Alice Baxter can tell us more about this. And Alice, a lot of people don't even know about this new type of fuel, do they?
Absolutely right, Anita. Yes, morning to you. Big news today for anyone out there who owns a petrol car, because from today, the standard fuel used to fill up with at the pump is changing from something called E5 to something more eco-friendly called E10. And as you say, rather worryingly, according to the RAC, more than a quarter of us out there don't know about this change. And we also don't know if our car's compatible with this new eco-friendly fuel. So let's get more on this now and talk to Rod Dennis from the RAC. Rod, morning to you. What is E10 and how do we find out if it is compatible with our cars?
Well, E10 is all about changing the petrol, the standard grade of petrol available at UK forecourts, to be more environmentally friendly. The government says huge quantities of CO2 can be saved by switching to this new fuel. So there's clearly a big kind of environmental push to introduce this. But you're right, our research already update does suggest some people aren't aware that it's actually coming in. The good news is it's really easy to check whether your car is compatible or not. All vehicles from 2011 onwards are compatible with the new fuel. And if you're not sure, you can simply Google E10 checker. You can go on the gov.uk website and find out very easily indeed whether your car is compatible with the new fuel or not. It is, as we say, going to be becoming the regular blend, the sort of blend that we're going to see at most forecourts. And drivers who have cars that are incompatible are going to have to fork out for super unleaded petrol. That will be available in the old E5 format, but it's not quite as widely available as E10 is. So again, if you're relying on E5 fuel going forward, you're going to have to perhaps do your homework to make sure that forecourt you're going to visit is going to be stocking the fuel that your car needs.
Okay, really interesting to know. Can you mix E5 with E10 fuel, and are there any other drawbacks to this new rollout?
But again, aside from some of these sort of environmental debates as to just how green using more biofuel content in petrol is, actually it's generally pretty good. It's generally pretty good news. And actually, like you say, in terms of mixing fuel, we'd advise you don't, but it's not the end of the world if you do. So if your car is only meant to run on E5 and you top it up with E10 by accident, what we would normally say, use around about a third of that fuel up and then switch to E5 after that. It's not quite like mixing petrol in a diesel tank or diesel in a petrol tank, which is the sort of stuff our patrols go out to sort of on a routine basis. Not as bad as that. But the fact is, fuel that's got more ethanol content, and that's what we're talking about with E10 fuel, can be more corrosive to some of the interior parts of engines, and that's why it can become a particular problem. So it is important to fill up with the right fuel, but obviously first and foremost is today, make sure your car is compatible with new fuel in the first place, and if it's not, go and seek out that super unleaded fuel.
Okay, super stuff. And if by going on to that free government checker that you referenced earlier, you discover that your car is compatible with E10 fuel, are there any other potential drawbacks? Could it affect my car negatively in any way?
Not really. I mean, there are some people who sort of talk about the fact that fuel efficiency reduces somewhat because the ethanol content within the petrol can burn more quickly. I think there's some truth in that, but I think actually when it comes down to sort of fuel efficiency, the way that you drive, whether you've got a kind of heavy right foot or not, is going to have a much greater impact on the overall amount of fuel that your car actually uses. So I don't think drivers are going to be seeing an enormous change through this. Again, E10 is something that's been in place in many of the European countries for years. In other parts of the world, in Brazil, for instance, they have cars that can take 100% ethanol fuel. So in some ways, we're kind of catching up in this country in terms of the switch to E10. But as I say, the most important thing today is around making sure your car is compatible. And if it's not, we would strongly recommend seeking out that super unleaded fuel. Unfortunately, if you do rely on the old fuel, E5, you're going to be paying more for it, around about 12 pence per litre more than you're going to be paying for regular E10. So there's a financial implication here for drivers of older cars, certainly. But of the sort of 20 million plus petrol cars we have on the road, we estimate around about 600,000 are going to be affected by the announcement today. So it's something for people to keep an eye on. But again, it's not as bad if you accidentally top up with E5 or E10 rather than an E5 car, as perhaps it could be with petrol or diesel mixing. So hopefully drivers aren't going to run into too many problems today.
Yeah, really good to make that comparison between a petrol and diesel mix-up. Not as severe, but hopefully we've managed to inform a few more people about this big change for anyone with a petrol car out there, that as of today, the standard fuel that we're using at the pump is switching from E5 to E10. Rod, really good to talk to you. Rod Dennis there from the RAC. Back to you now, Anita.
Alice, thank you very much.